The first match day in over 527 Serie A matches where both Brian Cristante and Lorenzo Pellegrini have been benched side by side. That is a remarkable statistic there. And I think it was a long time coming to see the captain benched. Look, his performances have been not great, to put it kindly. And I'm glad that Juric had the courage and put him on the bench and said, buddy, you need some time. You got to take a breather. It might be exactly what he needs. Maybe it even extends past this win over Torino. Perhaps we see it against Verona. I'm not sure. It's unfortunate that Baldanzi did not have the best game of the season against Torino. He was okay, but he had a couple of misplaced passes. But across the board, it was kind of it was an okay match. Roma had opportunities, few and far between. The XG for both sides was below 0.5, which is really low for any type of match. So he doesn't exactly seize that role for himself. But I think that when you look at his body of work throughout this season, Baldanzi is the person who should be starting as the most advanced of the midfielders. Before we discuss Roma Torino in extension, we have to take a look at what was that starting lineup in Roma's nightmare match against Fiorentina. They go to Florence, and there's a lot of pressure on Juric and the boys to perform. You know, the heads high, let's keep a positive momentum going, show something. And what we get is the polar opposite. Fiorentina go on to score 5 goals. They make it 15 goals in their last 3 matches. They won every single game in the month of October. Let's look at exactly how Ivan put out the boys. Spilar, Hermoso, Indica, Mancini, and from right to left, Selic, Pisilli, Cristante, Pellegrini, and Angelino. And then up ahead was Dybala behind Dolpik. It doesn't work. Hermoso gets a second yellow card. He goes out on a red. Hummels eventually makes his way in for Mancini. He has an own goal. It's a disaster after we knew that Hummels should have been starting. I think, in my opinion, he should be a clear-cut starter in either the back 4 or the back 3 as the ball playing center back. And Vincent, in the group chat of this WhatsApp of our YouTube page, he was mentioning that to me. He's like, look, I really like the way that Indica plays as the ball winner, but not the guy who's going to be playing balls out of the back the way that Hummels would. I think it's a very great point. It's one of the reasons why he's in the top 20 or 30 for Ballon d'Or, Hummels, and he made that appearance a couple days ago. At the center, and this is where it's time to make a leap. It's time to do something different. Cristante and Pellegrini with Pisilli. I think one of those 3 players deserves to keep on playing, and that is Niccolo Pisilli, because what I've seen from him is a lot of good things, and the good has really outweighed the bad. With Cristante and Pellegrini, it's been more of the same. It's been mediocre performances at best, and it's either due to energy or concentration or passes which don't make any sense or fouls which doom Roma. Out on the left, Angelino, and on the right, Selic. Of course, Selic, another player who's come under big criticism. He had a horror show against Fiorentina. Bove absolutely mauls the Giallorossi. We look back on the legacy of Lina Soloku, and this is, aside from the sacking of De Rossi, this is almost neck and neck, is letting a future captain of Rome be plugged away from the team, being given away for almost like circus peanuts. When you look at his clause, it's around 10 million euros. Fiorentina, if there's not an obligation to activate that based on number of matches, he will definitely end up in Florence at the remainder of this season, because that's looking like an absolute steal. He causes a penalty, he has an assist, and he scores a goal. Bove was on fire, and he didn't even want to. That's the thing. He's like demotivated in this game. He pretty much felt terrible about doing it, but he goes out there and it's crazy. I'm not going to take anything away from Kane. I thought his first goal was really good. The way that he beat Indica, he received it on his right and then put it away with his left. It was a sharp shooter of a goal. So I thought, aside everything else, how bad Roma were, that Kane is looking really good. And I want to say that the Azzurri have their undisputed starter. When we look at Tegui and what he's doing, he's scoring like on average a goal per match this season with Atalanta. But Kane is also really heated up. And I know he's been in discussion with Spalletti, so that's a space to definitely watch. But let's go on to better news. Let's look at the changes Juric does make yesterday. We see a completely new midfield. Aside from Pisilli, we have Kone and Lefebvre together. A French connection here between the two of them. And I think I've got a good stat that I had sent myself between them. This comes from Enzo on Twitter, and he points out that between the two of them, both stayed in the entire match. 126 out of 133 passes completed. That's ridiculous. 50% accuracy in long balls. That's not great, but 15 passes into the final third, 1-5, 2 interceptions, 10 recoveries, 8 out of 11 ground duels won. I have to imagine that Kone was the overbearer in that. I think he had the majority of those, and 4 fouls drawn. So between the two of them, it's a great performance and shows that it has to be Lefebvre, Kone, and Pisilli together. Those three have to be the set starters over Pellegrini, over Cristante. This is Roma's best foot forward. Add on to the left there, which is the right of your screen, Zalewski. And I really think that he's much better as a touchline midfielder. I don't think playing on the left is for him. Now, this is not traditional. What has become of football is that every player seems to be inverted. If they're playing on the left, they're typically a right-footed player who wants to get their shot off with their right foot. And if we talk about other players like, well, our boy Selik, I have to wonder if it's not time to see Sangare get some minutes. Samuel Dahl, I'd like to see him thrown in there. So other options. Dolphic missed this one. Dybala starts as the centravanti, as the center forward, and he gets his goal. I really liked it. I think this was a different type of goal for Dybala because he was pressing that ball, and the team was applying pressure in the way that Juric really wants. I'm happy about that. And he scores from an almost impossible angle. So we get a Dybala who's really hungry, a Dybala who wants to make a difference. So that I was very happy about seeing. It's a different mentality, I think, from the entire team. Also, Angelino keeps being put out as a center back. You can see how he's registered here in the starting formation, if I blow this up a little bit. But the goal comes from an error that he forced while occupying a left wing back's position. So it was a little different here. I really don't like Angelino playing there. I think it should be Hummels who's inserted at the center back role, where Indica would go out onto the left center back position, and you can keep Mancini at right center back. And you see him upon that goal hug Juric. And it was said that there was a bit of an argument, a spat between the two of them heading into the locker room. We know that against Fiorentina, Mancini and 2 other players did not come back out and support the team for the remaining time. I suppose that's another discussion for another time. But Torino, also not great. We can't say that this was the grande, mighty Torino. Carlo Lanetti is there. He's been around Serie A for ages. Tony Sanabria, who used to play for Roma years ago. Samuele Ricci, perhaps Torino's most popular player behind their keeper, with Milinkovic-Savic's brother, the one who's out in Saudi Arabia now, the ex-Lazio captain. And he's been an excellent, consistent performer in Serie A for the past several years. I think he was tied for or second most clean sheets in Serie A last season. But Samuel Ricci, this player I like, he didn't have the best of games, but when it comes to discussing defensive midfielders, he's someone who's definitely towards the top of things. So keep an eye on him. I don't think he's going to go for anything less than 17, 18 million euros, perhaps even in January. And if we're going to look at Serie A now, what the standings look like, it's not the kindest towards Roma, but we see Napoli, who's looking like a Scudetto contender under Conte. They had a fabulous match against Milan. Kvaratskhelia, just a wonderful goal. But Torino now sitting just 1 point above Roma in 9th, and Roma is still just hanging around. Let's put this into perspective. 13 points means that they are 6 out of 3rd place. So it's not doomsday yet. Roma should be able to find some consistency. I think that while Juric shows this bravery in making sure that the selections are the best players who need to be out there happen, I think Roma will continue to improve in their performances. A couple comments here from Dybala. He says, how was it to go under the curva after your goal? And he says, today, just essential to win. Very difficult week. We understand the fans, but today it meant a lot to us. We had to win and play well, giving something more. Football is a game. You can lose, but you have to give everything. I'm sorry for Florence. Today we needed a message. Victory is essential. And the last answer he has is about the goal. He says, I didn't know where I was. I knew the goal was empty, and I imagined it was there. Luckily, it went in, but I didn't know where I was. I mean, like, he didn't even look up. Just based on instinct, he gets that goal off. So pretty cool there from La Jolla. Pisilli also had a couple comments after the match too, and it was asked, how do you feel about this, like on the insides? And he says, they came to press us well, and we have to be really brave in the individual duels. And one thing I've liked from Pisilli so far is that he's not afraid to take players on. He's not afraid to drive like a truck, like a steam, what do you call it, locomotive through the center of the midfield. I think that's also a dynamic that Roma has missed. Guys, let me know what you thought about these two matches, how Roma has seemed to hopefully turn the tide, and what you're feeling going forward. Leave a comment, leave a like, and we will talk soon. Ciao.